Ads are everywhere. And not only are they everywhere, but the number of ads that people see every day is actually increasing. And that's at least in part because we now have ads in places where ads simply didn't exist. Think like gas station screens have them, TV home screens have them now, streaming services now have ad tiers. In fact, some estimates say that the number of ads that you see per day is between like 1 and 5,000. And now we have even more ads in yet another location. CNN starts us off today. Moviegoers headed to their local AMC theater can expect to see more ads before movies starting on Tuesday as a deal with ad giant National CineMedia takes effect. The deal, announced in early June, will see AMC Entertainment place ads in, quote, the platinum spot, the highly coveted period immediately preceding a movie's start. The pre-show material ahead of feature films, which includes trailers and other promotions, can last between 25 and 30 minutes, according to AMC's website. And 25 to 30 minutes feels like a lot. And frankly, that is an absurd amount of time to have to be watching ads for a movie that you've already paid for. But that's the main appeal of it, is that you've already bought the ticket and you, the audience member, are locked in. Once you've bought the ticket and are sitting in your seat, you're probably not going to leave because you've already paid for the thing that's going to happen. And the time variation of like 25 to 30 minutes is very intentional because that means that people can't time their movie experience around avoiding the ads. If you arrive at the 30-minute mark, but there were only 25 minutes of ads, well, then you've missed the first 5 minutes of the movie. But if you come at the 25-minute mark and there's 30 minutes of ads, well, then you watch 5 minutes of ads for a movie that you've already paid for. And this is called the platinum spot because it's the time at which the audience is most dialed in and everyone is watching the screen. Advertisements during like YouTube or TV or more traditional, cable, people can get on their phones, walk away, grab a snack, use the bathroom. But in this instance, everyone's phones are off because the phone off announcement has already happened and everyone is actively watching the screen and engaged with what is on there. And this announcement is coming at a time when it seems like every company ever is getting into the advertisement business. You've got your obvious ones like Google, YouTube, Microsoft, cable TV, and so on that have run ads to support their stuff for forever. But you're now getting ads in never seen before places where the technology to have ads there simply did not exist. A good example is like gas stations. The technology to show advertisements on those gas station screens didn't exist until recently. Banking apps have them now. If you open up your banking app, you'll probably see discounts from like Macy's, or some of them even just offer straight up coupons. Even my electric company at my old place used to send me advertisements with my bills in the mail. I would get the bill and then I would open it up and there would be coupons for local businesses. Everyone wants to advertise because there's so much money in your attention and your dollars specifically. So it makes sense that with everybody else getting into the ads business, that movie theaters, who are losing revenue and doing quite poorly overall, would start shifting more heavily into that. The article continues. The deal with National CineMedia, which provides ads to several major theater chains, will also enable AMC to secure additional ad sales. It is expected to provide much needed lifeline to AMC, which recently saw its worst first quarter earnings since 1996 outside of the pandemic. And it's kind of hard to argue with that. The logic here is that because the box office is down and streaming is up and people aren't going to the theater as much, that these theaters need some other stream of revenue. And that other stream of revenue is these advertising businesses. If a for-profit company is losing money, then of course they're going to do things to try and make that money back. And it makes sense that in this case, what they're doing is selling the attention of the audience that they have. And for anyone that's upset that this is happening, your sense of betrayal is actually not that far-fetched because AMC specifically said that they would not do this. The ad expansion is a departure from the theater giant's prior stance. In 2019, when the top competitors Regal Cinemas and Cinemark Theaters inked similar deals with National CineMedia, AMC refused to participate. At the time, the company said it flatly rejected the company's offer, expressing concerns that US moviegoers would react quite negatively to the concept. Now, the company is singing a different tune. Quote, while AMC was initially reluctant to bring this to our theaters, our competitors have fully participated for more than 5 years without any direct impact to their attendance, AMC told Bloomberg last month. And this right here is very telling. AMC refused to show ads before their movies, not out of the goodness of their heart, but because they assumed that moviegoers would be so upset by this that they would stop going to the other people that were doing it, to Regal and Cinemark, and come over to AMC, where AMC had fewer ads. But then, after some time, what they realized here was without any direct impact to their attendance, that just means that they didn't get the negative publicity or backlash that AMC thought that they would give, and AMC was not benefiting from people being upset about the amount of ads like they thought they were. So now they've decided that it makes more monetary sense to add the ads and take the small L on people being upset upset about it for the big W of making a lot of money because their competitors did it, and basically no one has cared. Or at least not cared enough to actually stop going. The reversal reflects the mounting pressure AMC faces amid a sluggish industry rebound. Ticket sales are still recovering from the pandemic, and the company continues to feel the impact of the 2023 actors and writers strikes that disrupted film release schedules. On top of that, the dominance of streaming platforms has further eroded traditional theater going. This is just emphasizing that they're losing more money by not doing it than they are gaining goodwill by doing it. And at the end of the day, it comes down to how much money are you making for your shareholders and your investors? Because if the company's not profitable, then the company goes under. Now, as you can imagine, when this was announced online, lots of people started declaring that they would stop going to AMC theaters. And that tends to be the rhetoric every time a company makes a big announcement that lots of people are upset about. Do you remember the Netflix thing where Netflix was going to crack down on people sharing passwords? And in response to that, tons of people said that they were going to cancel their Netflix subscription and this was the end of Netflix and everyone was mad about it. Videos talking about it went viral. And then after they did it, Netflix stock hit records highs, and they hit the most subscribers they had ever had at any single point because people were kicked off their friends or parents' Netflix accounts, and so they just went and made their own. And that gave permission to other companies to follow suit. And what I imagine is that we're going to see the same thing here, where people are upset about it, declare that they're not going to go to theaters or not support AMC, and then realistically, not enough people will care or stop going to the theater for this to actually have a negative impact. Rather, AMC will most likely see a revenue boost from it. And we know this is true because the other theaters that I mentioned have been doing this since 2019 and kind of no one talks about it. But before we talk about that, I post videos 2 or 3 times a week and they're all about finance and business and I'd love a subscription. Deadline talks about the other theaters doing it for several years. Updated with AMC response. Under a new agreement with major in-theater advertising firm National CineMedia, top exhibitors at Regal and Cinemark will incorporate advertisements just prior to the attached trailers before feature films. But AMC, the #1 US circuit, has come out strongly against the plan. The pact starts November 1st and will designate a single 30 or 60-second ad as a platinum spot. That ad will play immediately before the attached or 1 or 2 trailers right before the feature. Customarily, the studio distributing the feature attaches 1 or 2 trailers for its upcoming titles. Exhibitors will get a 25% cut of the revenue collected from the platinum spots, which National CineMedia CEO Tom Somebody said, quote, will become one of the most attractive spots in the advertising industry. People may complain about ads, but what we've seen from 5 years of data here since 2019 is that as much as people complain about ads playing before movies, realistically, they're not doing anything about it. To be fair, the theater industry is not doing as well as it was pre-pandemic, but as you can see here, it has been recovering basically every year since. We can see in 2020, it was pretty low. 2021, the box office went up. 2022, it went up. 2023, it went up. We've seen a small dip in 2024, but 2025 is on track to actually do better than 2024 and continue the streak. This is very similar to streaming services adding ad tiers. Netflix, Hulu, Disney, they've all done it, and they've all seen huge growth from it. As much as people hate it and will complain about it, realistically, not enough of them will refuse to pay for it or go do something else instead for it to actually make a difference. All of these streaming services have seen pretty significant growth, in large part because they're now offering cheaper ad-supported tiers. I usually say vote with your wallet, but I will concede that it's getting a little more complicated. See, if every company decides to do this, then there's not enough competition for people to go to a company that doesn't. And as a result of that, customers, while they still do have power, to be clear, don't have as much or as convenient of that power as they would like. However, I do still think that customers could do something if they wanted to. This is kind of a wild example, but cars are actually having buttons put back into them. Car makers are swapping away from touchscreens. Rejoice, car makers are embracing physical buttons again. Amazingly, reaction times using screens while driving are worse than being drunk or high. No wonder 90% of drivers hate using touchscreens in cars. Finally, the auto industry is coming to its senses. And I personally absolutely hate the idea of touchscreens in cars. I don't like having to look away from the road to do simple things that I used to be able to do without looking away from the road. But once Tesla did it and the Teslas sold really well and people liked the Teslas, other car companies started following suit because it looked really good. But then customers decided that they didn't like it and they started avoiding cars that had touchscreens in them. So car manufacturers started rolling them back because they suck. And to be fair, it took years. There were several generations of cars that had touchscreens where they did not need to have touchscreens. But car companies noticed that customers were actively avoiding this, and so they rolled these changes back. Another example, also weirdly from the car industry, is when BMW a few years ago rolled out a subscription service for their heated seats, and this made people very angry. BMW drops the plan to charge monthly fee for heated seats. Customers customers can now toast their tushies without paying a monthly subscription after the German automaker removed it from its digital store of added features. They had this heated seat subscription, people hated it, so they refused to pay for it, thereby voting with their wallet, and now BMW has gotten rid of it. This is examples of consumers having power if they choose to exercise that power. And while, again, I do concede that this time it is a little harder, you just have to be more creative in how you're choosing to use your time. If you want this to change, you have to get a little creative. You can do things like support small local theaters or start purchasing physical media again. And then we'll just have to wait and see what happens next. Thanks for watching.